What's interesting about the flow of business or the system of business is this idea that none of this is in a singular vacuum. There is no such thing of all you do is pull the little more patient switch and everything is better, because everything affects everything. Everything matters all the time. And one thing that I learned working in ear, nose, and throat is that there's a lot of different beliefs around how the flow of the practice should be. Hello and welcome to a specialty-focused episode of the Physician Growth Accelerator, a show where we break down your medical practice systems into vitals, give you the tools to diagnose root cause of what may be restricting your growth, and prescribe what to do about it. I'm your host, Zed Williamson, and I believe that every system is perfectly designed to get the result it gets. There's freedom in that statement because it means you may not like the outcome you're getting now, but that's okay because it's the perfect outcome from your current system. So all we have to do is tweak the current system. Now, today is a specialty-focused episode, and the specialty that we're focusing on today is ear, nose, and throat, otolaryngology. We have worked with hundreds of otolaryngology practices over the last 13 years. And there are some things that I believe today that are different than what I believed 13 years ago. And this specialty is an interesting one. It's getting some interest from outside investors in the private equity world. There's some belief around the specialty, some of it accurate, some of it a little inaccurate. And so we're going to dive into what can you do, specifically today, what we're going to talk about is what can you do to set your practice up for massive success with your staffing, a high-performance ear, nose, and throat team that's setting you up to be a rocket ship of a medical practice. Ironically, I had to pause there because I thought I was going to sneeze. So, ENT. Back 13 years ago, way back when, I believed that if a practice wanted to be more successful, all they had to do was see more patients. And there's probably people that are in business today, in private practice, in ear, nose, and throat, and other specialties, that think the same thing. Oh, I just need to be busier. And it's actually not true. What's interesting about the flow of business or the system of business is this idea that none of this is in a singular vacuum. There is no such thing of all you do is pull the little more patient switch and everything is better, because everything affects everything. Everything matters all the time. And one thing that I learned working in ear, nose, and throat is that there's a lot of different beliefs around how the flow of the practice should be. For instance, you can talk to someone and ask them, what's your busiest day? And they give you kind of that emotional, like, whew, man, when we see 35 patients, that's like, whew. And what's funny is early on, I didn't ask it that way. I asked questions about, are you busy? And usually the answer is just yes. Oh, yeah, we're busy. But the problem is I never had anybody define that. The definition of busy could range from 35 to 80 patients a day. And how could a practice of the same specialty actually define busy in different ways? Well, it really comes down to staffing. It comes down to setting your team up to be a well-oiled machine, to be able to clinically provide, excellent care to the patients while also having a system that's reliable so that it's actually a good experience for you as the business owner, for your team, as a staff, and for the patients who are trusting you with their care. So where does this start? It actually starts in something that you might think is a little bit squishy. It starts in the culture of the practice. It starts with what you believe matters for your private practice. And so I'm actually going to walk you through a couple steps. So if you're in a position to grab a piece of paper and a pen, go ahead and do so, because I'm going to walk you through some things to help you out. And if not, don't worry. You have access to this episode. Obviously, you can come back to it. But Number one, I want you to write down the things that you enjoy most within your practice, meaning what is it that you witness that just gives you joy? It's like, man, when that happens, I love coming here. And just jot down a couple bullet points. What you want to do is the homework to take from those bullet points is you want to make a very succinct, specific reason why your practice exists. Why does your ENT practice exist? And let me give you some guidance. You don't want to be generic and say things like, to provide the best ENT care, because that's, everybody's doing that, right? Why does it matter to you? What is it that you wake up Monday morning going, you know what? If we get this done today, I have helped the world. Another way to ask the question is, what would the world be missing if you went away? And just think about deep-rooted why you exist that matters and put it in a statement. The purpose behind that is we need to start creating your North Star. The reason is in business, when you're busy, what happens is you can start, you feel like you're running a race, but you're looking at your feet. And when we look at our feet when we're running, we tend to go in the wrong direction, run into stuff, hurt ourselves. It just doesn't work out very well. And if you don't have your final destination, that North Star, it's hard to lift your chin up to see what direction you're really going. So first, start off with this idea of why do we exist, this deep-rooted concept, and make it a single sentence, and share it with your team. You can also get feedback from your team on why they believe you exist. And what you'll be surprised by is many answers will be very similar. And it's because people do like to do things with each other, and you probably have some shared beliefs and shared values. And it's just good to put it in writing and make it specific. I'm not talking about, a corporate mission statement that goes on a plaque that gains dust, that, you put a lot of effort into and no one ever reads for the rest of your life. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a human-focused, why we exist statement that you can talk about all the time. Now, the next part is I want you to think about the employees that you've had either now or in the past, and it's the person that you just wish you could replicate. If you just had that magic wand and you could just get that person to be more of them, you would do it over and over again because they are awesome. They help you be better. I want you to put that person in your mind, and I want you to start writing things down to describe their behavior. What is it so much that you appreciate about them specifically? And I want you to jot down 3, 4, 5 items. And then on the other side, I want you to, this sometimes is a little bit easier to come up with, but I want you to think about the person that you wish maybe was never part of your practice. Or if they're there now, you kind of wish you'd already got rid of them. And they're very frustrating. They feel like, or you feel like they hold you back. Write down some of the aspects of what it is you don't like about them from the behavior standpoint. What are they doing that you don't like, that you don't think serves the practice? And write 2 or 3, you'll probably write 20, but a couple of those to give an idea. What you just did is you just created the framework of the core behavioral values that really matter to you and your organization. And one of the biggest mistakes that we've seen ENT practices make over the years is they feel like they have a need in the practice, meaning there's this, gosh, we need this person, we need an MA, we need a PA, a nurse practitioner, a front desk person. We need this person to do this stuff. And when you're in that state of need, you tend to hire based on someone's history or experience. And then you can bring in somebody that's really not a great fit. And so the idea behind writing these core behaviors that you really care about is this should be the filter in which you look at your current and next employees through. Do they represent who you believe matters to your practice? And this might be an interesting way to think about it, but let's say you play golf and you meet someone who plays golf. And so they have this skill. That doesn't automatically mean that you are now friends. They could be a total jerk, right? Now, if you have the same kind of beliefs, the same core values. You could be friends with that person, and then it turns out they also play golf, and now you have a thing to spend time with them. But it's also about the person's beliefs and behaviors. So think how much time you spend with friends compared to how much time we spend with the people we work with. So why do we prioritize a skill set or an experience, especially when experience might just mean they have a lot more years of learning how to do it the wrong way? Why do we prioritize that over the core behavioral values and beliefs of the person that we're bringing into this organization? Because if you believe that the practice should be able to calmly and effectively see 50 patients a day, and there's a core belief around it about being able to provide care to this many people and these type of patients, and then you have someone who's like, man, practice can't see more than 20 people a day. Well, you're already set up for failure. So aligning beliefs, getting congruent in regards to what you believe and what your team believes is really important. So take those items and use that as a filter. And it's okay. Think about your current team. Do they represent all these things? And if not, how can you communicate these items to them so they realize that this is what's important to the organization? And so that is you creating a North Star, and then you creating the lanes of behavior in which is right for you to get to that North Star. So I hope you're starting to get this sense of you're lifting your chin, I'm thinking about this future of where we're going, why we exist. And I'm saying, here's the path that we're going to take to get there. This path is based on these core behavioral values. And if you go off this path, you don't really get to be on the trip with us. Or if someone wants to get on the path, they can't unless they have those core behavioral values. So that's stuff that is important for you to own. It's really for you to own to help the other people be better within your organization. Now, on the other side of things you must own within the practice is understanding capacity, understanding what workload can someone handle, and being realistic about it. I mentioned earlier that this stuff doesn't exist in a vacuum, and that is 100% true. And so when we start thinking about, well, we just need more patients. Look, we have these open appointment slots. We could have seen 8 patients yesterday. That's an awesome statement. Now, expand that statement to all the other things that means. That means that we needed to take an additional 16 phone calls to get those 8 appointments. Oops, turns out we missed 50% of our phone calls. So we might have actually had those calls, but we just didn't answer the phone. Or the people who answer the phone are the ones who deal with insurance and prior authorizations. And so there is no more capacity for them to talk to new patients, which means it's impossible for you to see more. It doesn't matter what capacity is on your schedule if the constraint is before your schedule. Or maybe you have frustration about the type of patients you're seeing. Like we just get referrals for patients who need earwax removal. We never get any other patients. Think about what could be creating that. Where are the other patients going? Are they searching online, and are they finding you, or are they finding someone else? Do they even know they have a problem? Are you taking any ownership around helping your team relay what you can do for patients? Does your team actively reach out to referral sources and communicate the patients that benefit most from seeing you? And have you given the tools to your team members to do that? And are those team members in a place where they have the capacity to do it? We have to think about all of the organization of our business and the people that are doing the work. These are shared resources in the sense that just because someone has 8 hours, that doesn't mean that you can say, well, this task takes 2 minutes and this task takes 58 minutes, so their hours should be this specific thing. That's fine, but that's not human. We have to take into account the interruptions. What are these people doing? Is the person at the front desk rooming patients? Is the MA that's supposed to be doing this, are they rooming patients? Are you running late in your schedule all the time, which then causes people to have to communicate to patients more? Is the check-in or check-out process time-consuming? You have to think about your entire organization as this big system of inputs and outputs, and thinking through, where are there capacity constraints? Where am I believing that we have capacity, but in reality, something before that is making it so it doesn't matter? You know, if you have a wide open surgery schedule, but it's impossible to get a new patient appointment, there's an issue. If you have a wide open patient appointment schedule, but it's impossible to get a call through, you've got a problem. If the procedures you're providing are communicated to the patient in a way that freaks them out, because maybe your surgery scheduler hasn't been taught or hasn't been shown how to speak to patients when questions come up, you might be seeing a lot of no-shows for procedures. You know, that specifically is an interesting scenario where you as the physician, you're talking to the patient's like, oh my gosh, this sounds great. And you go, that's awesome, we're going to help you. You walk off going, all right, I'll be seeing that person in the OR. They go down the hall, talk to the surgery scheduler, and their eyes go wide open, and they go, okay, I better check my schedule because I don't know if I have time to do this, and then you never hear from them again. And you don't even know that because it doesn't get communicated to you. So you're kind of just skipping along the way merrily, like, all right, we'll be helping that patient soon, and the patient's gone forever. It's because none of this stuff is in a vacuum. It is all a system. And your people are the ones that are going to help you understand where your constraints are, where your capacity is. And I'm going to somewhat contradict myself, because you have to set people up for them to understand that we should always be improving. And so that person that tells you, I don't have the capacity to do more, you have to spend the time to understand, is that a true, legitimate complaint, or are they just complaining? And if you allow complaining in your office, meaning, well, I don't want to, this is difficult, this is hard, then you'll never go above where you are today. If you have honest communication with your team about reasonable and legitimate complaints, that is where growth is. And when you think about what do I mean by that? If I ask my son to go dig a hole in the backyard, complaining is he's digging and he's like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'd rather be doing blah, 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 blah. There's no value in that. That's just complaining. If I ask him to dig a hole in the backyard and I give him a plastic fork, a legitimate complaint is, Dad, I want to dig this hole. I think they have this thing called a shovel. Can we go get a shovel? Because it's going to take 90 years for me to use a plastic fork. That's a legitimate complaint. Be aware of the difference in your practice. And use your team to help you grow and achieve the things that you want. So I hope I gave you some items that you can walk away with today. Go take some action. Do a little homework. If you have any questions about it, always feel free to reach out. If you want to check the constraints within your practice, if you want to check your system, which we refer to as vitals, you can go to the physiciangrowthaccelerator.com and click on vitals. And we'll see you again on the Physician Growth Accelerator. Bye.